Captain Ryland sat alone in the observation deck of the small survey ship Starhawk. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the thick glass, scattered like glowing dust across the deep black ocean of space. To most, it was just another night among countless stars. But to Ryland, every point of light whispered of hidden truths, forgotten wars, and old stories buried by time. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on a faint cluster at the edge of known space. His heart carried a quiet hope, though his mind kept reminding him of the ridicule he had suffered for years. Everyone said the same thing. The Invictus never existed. The lost Dreadnought was just a myth, an old war tale humans told to make themselves look important, but Ryland was not so sure. The rumor of the Invictus, the first galactic war, had ended more than 400 years ago. Records were scattered, broken, or intentionally erased. Humanity had been a young species then, fragile compared to the great alien empires. No one expected humans to survive. Yet somehow, against all odds, they had. The war ended without their total destruction, though many details remained unclear. Among those fragments of history, one legend always returned: the Invictus. According to whispers, it was humanity's greatest warship, larger than anything else in the fleet, armed with weapons so powerful that entire enemy armadas avoided it. But one day, during a critical battle, the Dreadnought vanished. No wreckage was found. No survivors returned. Some claimed it had been destroyed, others said it had slipped into a hidden system. Over time, the story became just another campfire tale, told to inspire cadets and keep alive a sense of pride in humanity's resilience. Most aliens mocked the tale, laughing at the idea of humans creating anything of such scale. Even many humans stopped believing, but Ryland never did. A spark of evidence 2 weeks earlier, while searching the restricted archives of an abandoned outpost near the Orion Rift, Ryland had discovered something extraordinary, a fragment of a transmission dated to the war's final years. The audio was faint, filled with static, but certain words were clear. Invictus, fall back. System locked. Do not follow. It was not much, but it was enough. The coordinates embedded in the signal pointed toward an uncharted sector beyond the Veil Nebula, a place no official star maps marked. Most captains would have ignored it, but Ryland's curiosity burned brighter than caution. He believed this could be the lead that would prove once and for all that the Invictus was real. The skeptic crew, of course. Ryland could not make this journey alone. The Starhawk was a small survey vessel, built for exploration, not war. His crew of 6 were skilled explorers but hardly warriors. First was Lieutenant Mara, his navigation officer, calm and sharp-eyed, always calculating risks. She had followed Ryland through many failed expeditions, and though she doubted his theories, she trusted his heart. Then there was Corin, an alien engineer from the Jithari species. Known for their technical genius and quick temper, he often teased Ryland about his obsession with ghost ships. "Captain," Corin had said earlier that day, tightening a panel with his 4-jointed hands, "you've dragged us to the edge of nowhere more times than I can count. If I had a credit for every phantom you chased, I'd own a Dreadnought myself." Ryland only smiled. "Then maybe this time you'll see the real one." The rest of the crew was a mix of humans and aliens. Juno, a human pilot with reckless confidence. Tarek, a quiet alien biologist fascinated by uncharted worlds. And the twin communication officers, Lyra and Vey, who spoke in almost perfect synchrony. Together they formed a team of explorers, not soldiers. And yet, destiny had chosen them for something greater. Into the void. When the Starhawk left the last refueling station, Mara set the coordinates for the hidden sector. The ship glided into the abyss, engines humming softly. Days turned into weeks as they crossed abandoned regions where few dared to travel. They passed through the graveyard belt, where rusting warships from ancient battles floated silently. Broken hulls and shattered weapons drifted in eternal silence, monuments to a war few remembered clearly. Ryland stood at the window, staring at the wrecks. "These ships once carried the hopes of entire worlds," he whispered. "And now they are forgotten," Corin snorted. "And you think your Invictus is any different? A myth doesn't change history." Ryland turned, his eyes steady. "If we find it, you'll see it was never a myth. Humanity survived the impossible. Something helped us survive." The crew felt the weight of his words, though none spoke further. Silence filled the ship, broken only by the steady rhythm of the engines. Whispers of the past on the 12th day. The ship's sensors picked up faint energy trails. Ancient, decayed, but still present. Mara frowned at the data. These patterns don't match natural radiation. It looks like old engine residue, but the decay rate suggests it's been here for centuries. Ryland's pulse quickened. Exactly the timeline of the war. They followed the trail deeper into uncharted space. The nebula ahead glowed faintly, its clouds twisting like violet storms. Navigation became difficult as sensors flickered and signals warped. The crew grew uneasy. Strange echoes filled the communication channels, fragments of old transmissions distorted and ghostly. "Is that human?" Lyra asked, tilting her head at the static. They answered softly. "Too broken to tell. But it feels familiar." Even Corin stopped mocking. The ship pressed forward, guided by faith and fragments of forgotten signals. The shadow of a giant finally. After days of careful navigation, the Starhawk emerged from the nebula's edge into a silent star system. A dying sun flickered weakly at its center, surrounded by drifting asteroids and frozen dust. The system seemed lifeless except for one thing. Mara's voice trembled as she whispered, "Captain, look." At the far end of the system, half hidden behind a cluster of shattered moons, a massive shadow drifted. At first it seemed like a dark mountain floating in space, but as the Starhawk drew closer, details emerged. Armored hull plates, colossal weapon mounts, and a design unmistakably human. Ryland's breath caught in his throat. By the stars, it's real. The ship stretched for kilometers, larger than any vessel Ryland had ever seen. Its surface was scarred, marked by battles long past, yet its structure remained intact. Time and silence had preserved it. The Invictus, the lost dreadnought of legend. Awe and fear. The crew stared in silence, overwhelmed. Even Corin could only whisper, "Impossible. Humans could never have built this." "Not back then," Juno grinned with childlike wonder. "It's beautiful," but Tarek, ever cautious, frowned. "If it has slept here for centuries, why now do we find it? What if it wakes?" The words chilled the crew. For though the dreadnought floated silently, there was a strange hum, faint, almost hidden, like the heartbeat of something not fully dead. Ryland's eyes gleamed with both fear and hope. This ship changed history once, and it may change it again. The silent invitation as the Starhawk circled closer. A flicker of light appeared on the dreadnought's surface. A docking bay door sealed for centuries began to glow faintly. Lyra gasped. "It's responding to us. Or calling us inside," Vey added softly. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. To step aboard was to awaken a legend. To turn away was to leave history buried forever. Ryland's voice was steady, though his hands trembled slightly. "Prepare to dock. Humanity has been waiting 400 years for this moment. We are going to step inside the Invictus." The Starhawk aligned with the ancient bay, its small frame dwarfed by the dreadnought's titanic size. The door creaked open and darkness waited within, vast and silent. As the crew prepared for entry, none could shake the feeling that they were not just explorers anymore. They were witnesses to the rebirth of something far greater, something that could change the galaxy once more. And deep within the Invictus, systems long dormant stirred faintly, as though the ship itself had been waiting for them. The docking clamps of the Starhawk locked against the dreadnought's ancient hull with a metallic thud. For a long moment no one spoke. The air inside the small ship felt heavy, as if every breath carried the weight of history itself. Captain Ryland stood at the airlock, helmet sealed, suit pressurized. His crew gathered behind him, all wearing exploration gear. Beyond the airlock door stretched the silent darkness of the Invictus, the legendary warship thought lost for centuries. "Last chance to back out," Ryland said softly. Juno the pilot smirked. "Captain, if I came all this way just to turn around, I'd never forgive myself." Mara gave a small nod. "We've followed you into worse places," Corin muttered, "not into the stomach of a ghost." Yet even he was checking his gear, ready to follow. Ryland pressed the release. The airlock hissed, the door slid open, and for the first time in 400 years, footsteps echoed inside the Invictus. The dark halls. The docking bay was massive, built to house shuttles larger than the Starhawk. Their lights swept across towering walls of steel, faded banners of the old Terran Navy still hanging in tatters. Dust floated in the stale air, disturbed by their arrival. "It's like walking into a tomb," Tarek whispered. His alien eyes adjusted quickly to the dark, scanning every shadow. Mara studied the deck plates. No signs of breach or collapse. The ship sealed itself. That's why it survived. The crew moved cautiously, lights cutting through the gloom. Every corridor they entered stretched endlessly, lined with sealed doors and silent consoles. The Invictus was vast, a city in space built for tens of thousands of crew. Yet now it stood empty. Ryland's voice echoed, low but firm. "Remember this moment. We are the first to stand here in centuries. History is watching us." The first sign of life as they explored deeper, faint vibrations ran through the floor. Juno stopped abruptly. "Did you feel that?" The crew froze. Again, a subtle hum thrummed beneath their boots like the pulse of something ancient waking. Corin crouched, placing his multi-jointed hand against the deck. His wide eyes glimmered. "Engines. Or some power core. Still alive." "That's impossible," Mara said quickly. "Nothing should run after 400 years without maintenance." "Then explain the hum," Corin shot back. Before they could argue, a nearby console flickered weakly. Dust scattered as its screen glowed faint blue, displaying strange symbols. Slowly, the words shifted into Old Terran Standard. "Welcome back, Captain." The crew stepped back in shock. Ryland's breath caught. "It's responding to us." "Not to us," Lyra said softly, her twin Vey finishing the thought. "To you." The voice of Invictus. The console beeped, and a synthetic voice filled the corridor. It was old, calm, and steady, but with a tone that carried strange warmth. Identity confirmed, bloodline trace matches command protocols. Designation: Ryland Dane, descendant of Captain Adrian Dane. Command access granted. Ryland froze. He had heard his family speak of a distant ancestor, a captain who fought in the First Galactic War, but no one ever believed their stories fully. Now the ship itself confirmed it. Captain Adrian Dane. Ryland whispered. "He was real." The voice continued. "Invictus has awaited return. Systems partially functional. Reactivation possible. Warning: enemy signals detected beyond nebula." The words sent chills through the crew. Mara frowned. "Enemy signals? From who?" The ship did not answer. Only the low hum of its ancient heart continued. The bridge of giants guided by faint lights that flickered on as they moved. The crew made their way to the bridge. It was a colossal chamber, with massive viewing windows stretching across the stars. Rows of command chairs sat empty, their controls dead until the moment Ryland entered. As he stepped forward, the central console lit up fully, casting the room in silver light. Ancient holograms flickered, maps of long-forgotten battlefronts, names of fleets lost to history. Corin's jaw dropped. This is technology even we don't have now. Humans made this, centuries ago." The voice of the Invictus spoke again. Primary command recognized, awaiting orders. The crew looked at Ryland. For the first time in his life, he did not feel like a dreamer chasing myths. He felt like a captain standing on the edge of destiny. Records of the past. Ryland ordered the ship to display its logs. Holograms filled the room, showing fragments of the war. Humanity had been outnumbered, outgunned, but the Invictus had turned battles that seemed unwinnable. Enemy fleets fell before its weapons. It became a symbol of defiance. But the final logs grew chaotic. Orders to retreat, signals cut off, a desperate jump into the unknown. Then silence. Mara studied the data. It didn't lose. It ran. Not ran, Ryland corrected softly. It hid. Waiting. The final entry bore a message from Captain Adrian Dane. To whoever finds this ship, humanity will need it again. Protect it until the day comes. The bridge fell into silence. Doubts and fears. Not everyone was eager to continue. Tarek shifted uneasily. Captain, if this ship wakes fully, what will it bring? Weapons that destroy entire fleets? Old enemies rising again? Perhaps it was better left hidden. Corin nodded. I agree. This is not a discovery, it's a danger. If the empires learn humanity still has such power, they will never allow it. But Juno's eyes gleamed with excitement. Do you hear yourselves? This is history alive in front of us. Humanity built something no one thought possible. We can't turn back now, Mara looked at Rylan. It's your choice. You carry the bloodline. The ship listens to you. Rylan's hands tightened into fists. He could feel the weight of his ancestors' legacy pressing on him. We didn't come this far to walk away, he said firmly. The Invictus is not just a weapon. It's proof of what humanity is capable of. We'll learn its secrets, and we'll protect it. A warning in the dark as if to answer him, alarms suddenly blared. The ship's voice spoke again. Alert. Long-range detection active, multiple ships approaching system, hostile identification, unknown. Estimated time of arrival, 3 days. The crew stiffened. Mara leaned over the console. They must have detected our entry into the nebula. Someone's been watching. Which empire? Juno asked. No idea. Mara replied grimly. But whoever they are, they're coming here. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. Their small survey ship could never fight. Only the Invictus stood between them and destruction. Rylan looked at the glowing console, heart pounding. Then we have 3 days to bring this ship back to life. Awakening the giant over the next hours, the crew explored the Invictus, guided by the ship's ancient AI. The Dreadnought's power core still functioned, though at minimal output. Vast engine chambers hummed faintly, waiting to be reignited. Corrin worked tirelessly, his engineer's mind caught between awe and frustration. The design is primitive but genius. It shouldn't work, but it does. These humans broke rules of engineering we didn't even know existed. Mara calculated navigation paths, trying to understand the Dreadnought's jump systems. Juno explored the massive hangars, marveling at ancient fighters still stored within. Lyra and Vey worked on communication relays, piecing together broken channels. Each corner of the ship revealed something new. Forgotten barracks, silent medbays, training halls, and archives filled with human culture from centuries ago. It was not just a warship, it was a floating city, a home for thousands of souls who once lived and fought within its walls. The crew felt as if they were walking through humanity's own memory. The captain's choice that night. Rylan sat alone on the captain's chair, staring at the stars beyond the bridge. His ancestor's voice echoed in his mind. Humanity will need it again, protected until the day comes. He thought of the coming enemy ships. He thought of the fragile alliance of races that currently ruled the galaxy, many of whom dismissed humanity as weak. If they saw the Invictus alive again, what would they do? Would they fear humanity or respect it? Mara entered quietly. You can't sleep either? Rylan shook his head. I keep thinking, if I awaken this ship, everything changes. For us. For the galaxy. Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. It was waiting for you. Maybe this is what you were born for. Rylan looked at her, then back at the stars. Then I won't run from it. A promise to the future. The next morning, Rylan gathered his crew on the bridge. We are the first to stand here in centuries, he said. The Invictus trusted my ancestor to protect it, and now it trusts us. We can't let it fall into enemy hands. We'll wake it, we'll fight for it, and we'll make sure humanity's legacy is never forgotten. The crew exchanged glances, fear mixed with determination. One by one, they nodded. Even Corrin, though still skeptical, said, If this ship truly can rise again, then I will help, but only because I want to see how such madness works. The ship's lights pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, as though it approved of their choice. As the countdown to enemy arrival began, the Invictus stirred deeper, its ancient power awakening. Systems long silent hummed to life, corridors lit with new light, and the air grew warm with energy. For the first time in centuries, the lost Dreadnought began to breathe again, and the galaxy, though it did not yet know, was about to change forever. The Invictus had been asleep for centuries, yet now its heart slowly stirred. Across the giant vessel, lights flickered on one by one, casting shadows in halls that had not seen movement in generations. Ancient engines whispered with low vibrations. Power flowed through veins of steel like blood returning to a body. Captain Rylan stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the glowing consoles. His crew worked around him, each person rushing to learn as much as they could before the enemy ships arrived. They had less than 3 days, and the Invictus was far from ready. Old Power, New Hands Corrin, the alien engineer, had crawled deep into the core chambers. He connected scanners, patched conduits, and cursed constantly. His voice crackled through comms, sharp and impatient. This ship is insane, Captain. Its systems are both primitive and advanced. Circuits that should not last a decade are still functioning after centuries. Whoever designed this was either a genius or completely mad. Ryland smiled faintly. Maybe both. Corin groaned. Engines will take time to wake fully. Weapons? Forget it. The power cells are drained. If we want even a chance of defending ourselves, we need to reroute everything to shields and propulsion. Mara, at the navigation console, shook her head. We can't outrun a fleet. We need at least some weapons. Then pray your captain has good ideas. Corin muttered. Echoes of the past. Meanwhile, Tarek, the biologist, wandered through the preserved halls. He entered what seemed to be a memorial chamber. Holograms stood frozen in light. Names of thousands of crew members who once served aboard. Faces smiled faintly from images stored in the ship's memory. He whispered softly. This was not just a warship. It was a world, a home. All those lives. How shadows. The Invictus's AI responded, its calm voice echoing. They fought, they endured, they are remembered. Tarek froze. You remember them? Yes, every name, every voice. Their legacy is within these walls. Tarek touched the nearest hologram gently. Then we must not let this ship die again. The first awakening back on the bridge, Ryland stood before the captain's chair. He had avoided sitting in it, almost afraid to claim a place his ancestor once held, but now with systems coming alive, he felt drawn to it. Slowly, he lowered himself into the seat. The moment he did, the ship responded. Consoles lit brighter, holograms sharpened, and the AI spoke clearly. Command seat occupied. Primary access restored. Captain Ryland Dane, you hold the legacy. Ryland's heart pounded. Invictus, can you fight? Systems damaged. Weapons at 20%. Shields at 30%. Engines functional. Repairs possible. Time limited. Enemy ships arrive in 2 days. Ryland said. Understood. Initiating priority restoration. Crew assistance required. The ship was not only waking, it was calling on them to help. Training with ghosts over the next hours. The Invictus began training the crew itself. Old holographic programs appeared, showing how to operate massive consoles designed for thousands of officers. Mara stood at the navigation station as ghostly figures demonstrated star maps and jump calculations. It's teaching me, she whispered. Juno practiced piloting commands with holographic co-pilots. Lyra and Vey worked with communication systems, guided by recordings of officers long gone. Even Corin, grumbling all the while, followed engineering projections that showed how to bypass damaged conduits. It was as though the dead crew of the Invictus still served, their knowledge preserved in the ship's memory. This is incredible, Juno said with wide eyes. It's like the old crew is still here with us. Ryland nodded slowly. Maybe that was always the point. So the Invictus would never truly be alone. A warning from the stars on the second day, alarms rang again. Mara's console flashed with readings. Captain, incoming signals detected. Long-range sensors confirm. 2 fleets approaching from different vectors. Estimated arrival less than 40 hours, the crew froze. 2 fleets. That meant not one empire had learned of their presence, but at least 2. Which ones? Ryland asked. Unknown, Mara answered. But both are hostile, Corin growled. So we're caught between predators. Ryland clenched his fists. Then we need the Invictus ready before they arrive. If not, we're finished. Secrets in the core. Corin discovered something strange while repairing conduits near the power core. Buried beneath layers of shielding, he found an additional chamber sealed by codes only Ryland could open. Captain, Corin said over comms. I found something big. You need to come down here. Ryland and Mara rushed to the chamber. At its center stood a massive device glowing faintly. It pulsed with slow rhythm like a heartbeat. What is it? Mara asked. The AI answered. Primary arc cannon. Humanity's final creation. Power unmatched. Currently offline. Corin's eyes widened. This is no cannon, it's a star killer. No wonder the empires feared this ship. Ryland stared at the device, awe and fear mixing inside him. Can it work? With power. With will. The AI's words echoed strangely, almost like a challenge. Ghostly conversations. That night, while the crew rested, Ryland sat alone on the bridge. He replayed the final message of his ancestor again and again. To whoever finds this ship, humanity will need it again. Protect it until the day comes. He whispered into the silence. Was this what you meant, ancestor? Did you know the future would bring war again? The ship's AI spoke softly. Captain Adrian Dane believed humanity would always need hope. This ship was built to be that hope. Rylan closed his eyes. Hope or fear? That depends on who holds it. Testing the beast the next day, with only 20 hours left before the fleets arrived, the crew decided to test the Invictus's systems. Juno grinned nervously at the pilot console. Captain, this thing flies like a mountain. Let's see if we can move her. The engines roared, deep, thunderous, shaking the entire ship. The Dreadnought trembled, then slowly lifted from its resting place among shattered moons. Dust and rock scattered as the Invictus moved under its own power for the first time in centuries. Mara monitored the trajectory. Engines at 60%. Maneuvering is sluggish, but it works. Now weapons, Rylan ordered. Corin activated the forward batteries. From the ship's hull, massive cannons extended, glowing faintly. They fired into a nearby asteroid, shattering it into glowing fragments. The crew cheered. It works. Juno laughed, but Corin shook his head. Not enough. Against two fleets, 20% weapons won't be enough unless... He glanced at the sealed core chamber. Rylan followed his gaze. The arc cannon. The choice, the AI spoke again. Calm yet heavy. Warning. Activating primary arc cannon requires full power diversion. Shields will fall. Engines will fail. You will have one strike. One strike, Rylan repeated. Mara frowned. If we miss, we're finished, Juno smirked. Then we don't miss. The crew fell into silence. The choice was simple but terrifying. Trust the arc cannon or rely on partial weapons and hope for survival. Rylan looked at each of them. He could see fear in their eyes, but also determination. We don't have the luxury of half measures, he said. If this ship was built for a moment like this, then we'll use everything it has. We'll give the galaxy a reason to remember humanity. The AI's voice rumbled softly. Legacy accepted. Arc cannon preparation begins. The coming storm, with less than 10 hours left, the Invictus rose fully from its hiding place. Its colossal frame glided through the system, leaving behind centuries of dust. Lights burned along its hull, weapons extended, and the ancient Dreadnought looked alive once more. From afar, the approaching fleets drew closer. Mara displayed the readings. Dozens of warships, sleek and powerful, belonging to alien empires that once feared humanity. They're not here for peace, Mara said grimly. They're here to destroy this ship before it can rise again. Rylan stood tall on the bridge. Then they'll learn what it means to underestimate humanity. The crew prepared for battle, hearts pounding. For the first time in centuries, the Invictus was not just a ghost. It was awake. It was ready. And the galaxy was about to see why it had been feared. The stars of the dead system burned faintly, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. In the center of that quiet space, the Dreadnought Invictus floated with renewed life. Its colossal hull glowed faintly as ancient reactors hummed for the first time in centuries. The ship, once thought to be only a legend, was awake again. Captain Rylan stood on the command deck, his eyes fixed on the massive screen showing the system beyond. He felt both pride and fear. The pride came from standing on the bridge of the greatest human ship ever built, and the fear came from knowing that their awakening had already drawn unwanted attention. Captain, said Mara, the communications officer, we are picking up multiple signals. Enemy fleets are entering the system. They must have detected the energy burst when Invictus powered up. Rylan gave a slow nod. How many? Mara's voice trembled slightly. More than we can count. At least 3 empires. They are all moving toward us. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. None of them were surprised. The galaxy had long feared the possibility that Invictus was real, and now every hostile power wanted it destroyed before it could tip the balance of power. The first strike. The alien fleets arrived faster than expected. Sleek warships filled the dark sky, their hulls glowing with deadly intent. Their formation was tight, organized like wolves circling prey. But this time the prey was a beast far older and far more dangerous than they could imagine. They are hailing us, Mara reported. Put it through, Rylan ordered. A harsh, metallic voice filled the bridge. It belonged to the commander of the Zorith Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Human captain, The alien voice thundered. You sit on a ship that should have stayed buried. Abandon it and surrender, or you and your fragile crew will be erased from existence. Rylan didn't hesitate. This ship belongs to humanity, and we will not surrender. The alien laughed, a sound that sent chills down the crew's spines. Then you will die as your ancestors died. The screen went dark. A moment later, enemy ships began their approach. Shields at maximum, Rylan ordered. Weapons. Let's see if this old giant still remembers how to fight. The awakening of power, the ship's AI, a calm voice that had guided Invictus centuries ago, spoke through the speakers. Captain Rylan, weapon systems are online. Energy reserves are unstable but functional. Shall we proceed with combat protocols? Yes, Rylan said firmly. The crew braced as the Dreadnought's massive cannons unfolded from hidden compartments. The ship's ancient design looked bulky compared to the sleek alien ships, but the power behind those weapons was unmatched. The first enemy volley struck. Beams of plasma slammed against Invictus's shields, lighting up the bridge with flashes of energy. The ship trembled but held strong. Shields at 80%, reported Kale, the tactical officer. Rylan raised his hand. Fire! The Dreadnought's main gun unleashed a beam of raw energy that cut across space like a blade of light. In one instant, an entire squadron of enemy ships vanished in a blinding explosion. Gasps filled the bridge. Even the alien members of the crew were stunned. They had never seen such destructive power. By the stars, whispered Arian, the alien navigator. This ship is not just a weapon. It is a storm. The endless waves, but the battle was far from over. More fleets poured into the system. The Zorith were not alone. Other rival empires had also come. Ships of different designs and colors swarmed together, united by their shared fear of humanity's lost Dreadnought. They are not fighting each other, Mara realized. They are all working together against us. Rylan's expression hardened. Then we will show them what happens when they stand against humanity. Wave after wave of alien firepower crashed against Invictus. The shields dimmed, sparks flew across consoles, and the hull groaned under the strain. But every time the enemy pressed harder, the Dreadnought struck back with greater fury. One volley from its missile banks shredded a destroyer group. Another blast from its secondary cannons tore through an entire carrier line. The galaxy had forgotten what Invictus could do. Now it was remembering. The cost of battle, yet even legends could bleed. The Dreadnought systems, untouched for centuries, struggled to keep up with the relentless assault. Reactor output dropping, Kale shouted. We cannot keep firing at this rate. We need time, Rylan muttered. Time to recover, time to push back, the AI responded. Captain, there is an option. The ship's core has an emergency overdrive sequence. It will restore full power for a limited time. But the strain could destroy the reactors permanently. Rylan hesitated. If the core failed, Invictus would die here. But if they did nothing, they would be overwhelmed anyway. He looked at his crew. Their faces showed exhaustion but also determination. This was not just about survival. It was about proving humanity's place in the galaxy. Activate overdrive, Rylan commanded. The ship roared to life. Lights flared across its hull as energy surged through ancient veins of machinery. The main cannon glowed brighter than a sun. When it fired, an entire enemy fleet disintegrated in one shot. Cheers erupted across the bridge. But Rylan knew the price. They were burning the ship's heart faster than it could heal. Allies in the fire amid the chaos, unexpected allies arrived. Smaller ships appeared at the edges of the battle, vessels from races that had once mocked humanity. These ships were not large, not powerful, but they joined the fight beside Invictus. One alien captain's voice broke through the comms. Human captain, your ship fights like a god of war. We will stand with you, not because we must, but because we choose to. Rylan allowed himself a brief smile. Humanity had been underestimated for so long. Now, even in the darkest moment, others were beginning to see the truth. Together, the Dreadnought and its new allies pushed back against the united enemy fleets. The void of space became a graveyard of shattered ships and burning wreckage. The turning point hours of battle passed like minutes. The enemy still had numbers, but their courage was fading. For every squadron they sent, Invictus destroyed 2 more. The name of the ship was spreading across comm channels. Whispered in fear and awe, the Invictus lives, at last. The Zorith commander appeared again on the screen. His once proud face now twisted with frustration. Human captain, this cannot be. No relic of the past should hold such power. Ryland's voice was calm, steady. It is not the ship you fear. It is the people who built it. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. The alien roared in anger, but his fleets were breaking apart. Some retreated, others fought on without hope. The tide had turned, the aftermath of fire. When the last enemy ship fled the system, silence returned to the stars. The battlefield was littered with wreckage, glowing debris drifting endlessly in the void. On the bridge of Invictus, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had survived the greatest battle of their lives. Status? Ryland asked quietly. Kale scanned the readings. Hull damage extensive. Shields offline. Reactor stable, barely. But we are alive. Mara leaned back in her chair, letting out a long breath. Alive and victorious. The AI's voice filled the room. Captain Ryland, this battle will be remembered. The galaxy has witnessed the return of Invictus, and with it the rebirth of human strength. Ryland looked out at the endless stars. He knew this was only the beginning. The Dreadnought had proven itself once more. But the galaxy would not forget what happened here. Some would fear humanity. Others would seek its friendship. But one truth was certain. History had changed forever. Closing of Part 4, the mighty Dreadnought floated among the stars, wounded but unbroken. Its cannons were silent now, its reactor dimmer, but its presence filled the void with awe. Captain Ryland stood tall on the bridge. He felt the weight of history pressing down on him, but also the fire of hope burning brighter than ever. For centuries, the galaxy had dismissed humanity as weak, fragile, and unimportant. But now, with Invictus leading the way, humanity had shown the truth. They were not to be underestimated, and the galaxy, whether ready or not, would never be the same again. The battlefield was quiet now. Shattered wrecks of enemy ships drifted across the dark sky, their broken frames glowing faintly from lingering fire. The mighty Invictus floated in the center of the destruction, its vast hull scarred but still standing proud. Inside the bridge, the crew sat in silence, absorbing what had just happened. They had fought against impossible odds, against three of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. And they had survived. No, more than survived. They had won. Captain Ryland stood at the front, his eyes fixed on the endless stars. His heart was heavy with exhaustion, but deep inside him burned a steady flame of pride. Humanity had been underestimated for too long, treated as weak by greater powers. But now, with the Invictus awake once more, the truth had been revealed. The weight of Victory Kyle, the tactical officer, broke the silence. Captain, the ship held, but just barely. Hull breaches on 3 levels. Shield systems offline. The reactor is stable, but it will take weeks to fully repair. Ryland nodded slowly. But she is alive. That's what matters. The alien navigator Arian looked at Ryland with new respect in his eyes. Captain, I must admit I doubted humanity.
I doubted you.
But what I witnessed today, it has changed my mind. Your kind is not what the galaxy believed. Mara, the communications officer, added, We're receiving hundreds of transmissions, Captain. From fleets, colonies, even neutral traders. Word is spreading across the stars. They are calling Invictus the storm of humanity. Ryland let the words sink in. History was shifting. The galaxy had witnessed the return of humanity's lost strength, and nothing could erase that memory. The gathering of allies' days passed. The Invictus remained in the dead system as makeshift repairs continued. Allied ships that had joined the battle stayed nearby, not out of obligation but out of choice. They saw in the Dreadnought a beacon of hope, something greater than a weapon. One by one, alien captains came aboard to speak with Ryland. Some offered resources to help repair the ship. Others offered their loyalty, saying they wished to stand with humanity rather than against it. A Carthan commander, a tall reptilian being with scaled armor, bowed slightly to Ryland. We have fought beside many powers, Captain. None have stood as fiercely as your people. We owe you our respect. Another, a slender avian leader with bright feathers, added, The galaxy needs balance. The old empires are too arrogant. Perhaps humanity is the balance we have been waiting for. For the first time in centuries, humanity was not seen as weak. It was seen as strong, capable, and worthy of leadership. The shadow of fear, but not all voices were friendly. Among the transmissions, threats came as well. The empires that had fled the battle were furious. humiliated that their combined might had been broken by a single ship. "They will come again," Cale warned. This was not the end. This was only the beginning, Rylan agreed. He knew the victory had not ended the danger. It had only painted a target on humanity's back. Every empire would now see Invictus as the greatest threat in the galaxy. Still, he refused to let fear guide him. "If they come," Rylan said firmly, "we will be ready. Humanity has hidden for too long. It is time we step into the light." The legacy of Invictus. One evening, Rylan walked alone through the ancient halls of the Dreadnought. The ship's walls were covered in old markings, symbols left behind by the crew who had once served here centuries ago. He stopped before a large plaque at the center of the corridor. The words were written in Old Terran, but he could still understand them. For humanity. For the future. For victory that outlives us. He touched the plaque gently. The builders of this ship had known it was more than just metal and weapons. It was a message across time, a reminder that humanity's spirit could never be buried. The ship's AI spoke softly in his ear. "Captain Rylan, you carry their legacy now. You are not just the commander of this ship. You are the voice of humanity in a galaxy that had forgotten us," Rylan whispered back. "Then I will not let them down." The Council of the Galaxy. Weeks later, a galactic council was called. Representatives of dozens of species gathered in a vast station orbiting a neutral star. They came not because they were ordered, but because they wanted to see the ship that had shaken the galaxy. The Invictus arrived slowly, its immense form casting a shadow across the station. Even damaged, it looked unstoppable. Whispers filled the halls as leaders from across the galaxy stared at it with awe and unease. Captain Rylan entered the council chamber, wearing the simple uniform of his people. He did not come as a conqueror, but as a representative. One alien leader stood and shouted, "This ship is a danger to us all. It should be destroyed before humanity rises again to threaten the balance." Others murmured in agreement, but then the Carthan commander who had fought beside Rylan spoke. "No, this ship is not a threat, it is a warning. A warning that arrogance will no longer rule unchecked. Humanity has earned its place among us." The chamber erupted in argument, but slowly voices shifted. Many had seen the battle. Many had heard the reports. Humanity could no longer be dismissed. Rylan raised his voice above the noise. "We do not seek conquest. We do not seek domination. Humanity only asks for respect, for equality. The Invictus is not a weapon of terror. It is a symbol that we will not bow, that we will not be erased from history." Silence followed. Then slowly applause began. It spread through the chamber until even some of the fiercest rivals joined in. Humanity had finally been recognized. The new dawn back aboard the Invictus. The crew watched the stars with quiet satisfaction. The galaxy was still dangerous, still full of enemies, but now there was hope. Humanity was no longer standing in the shadows. Mara smiled as she read the latest transmissions. "Captain, colonies across human space are celebrating. They call you the guardian of Invictus. Children are singing songs about the ship. People who once felt weak now walk with pride," Kyle added. "It's more than that. Other species are asking to form an alliance with us. Not with the old empires, with humanity." Rylan looked at his crew, at humans and aliens standing side by side. "Then this is just the beginning. Invictus is not the end of history. It is the start of a new chapter." The AI's voice echoed through the bridge, calm and steady. "Captain Rylan, course is set. Where shall we go next?" Rylan gazed at the stars, his eyes shining with determination. "Forward. Always forward. The galaxy is waiting and humanity will meet it head-on. The ship that changed history. The Dreadnought glided through space, a giant among the stars. Its scars from battle were still visible. But those scars were marks of survival, proof that even legends could endure the test of time. Across the galaxy, the name Invictus spread like fire. It was whispered in fear by enemies, spoken with awe by allies, and remembered with pride by humanity. It had once been a lost relic, forgotten by history. Now it was the ship that had changed everything. And so the journey of humanity continued, not as the weakest race in the galaxy, but as one of its rising powers. The galaxy would never again look at humans with pity or dismissal. From this day forward, humanity stood as equals among the stars. And at the center of it all was the ship that carried their legacy, the lost Dreadnought that had changed history forever.